Every autumn, the great flock gathered at the northern lake before the long flight south. Geese with wingspans wide enough to cast shadows on the water, built for distance, built for the journey ahead. And every autumn, a small wren, barely the size of a fist, with wings made for short hops between hedges, not for thousands of miles, stood at the water's edge and watched them prepare to leave without her. The geese were not cruel, exactly, just certain. "You'll never make the journey," the eldest goose told her, not unkindly. "Your wings weren't built for it. Stay here. Survive the winter as best you can." The wren said nothing. She had already decided. At dawn, the geese rose together in their great V formation and disappeared into the southern sky. The wren watched them go. Then, 3 days later, she left too, alone, low to the ground, following the same direction by instinct rather than strength. The wind was the first thing that nearly ended her journey. Geese fly high, where the air moves with them. A wren has no choice but to fly low, where every gust fights against her directly. She learned, within the first day, to fly from hedge to hedge, from fence post to fence post, resting longer and more often than she wanted to admit was necessary. 3 weeks into the journey, a storm caught her in open country with no trees for shelter. She found a crack in an old stone wall, barely wide enough for her body, and pressed herself into it for 2 full days. While somewhere far ahead, the great flock of geese, flying high above the worst of the weather, never knew the storm had happened at all. This was the part of the journey no one had told her about. That strength and altitude are not the same thing, and that the creatures built to fly above the storm would never understand what it cost to fly through it. She did not resent them for this. She simply understood more clearly each day that her journey and theirs were not actually the same journey. When the storm passed, she did not wait for it to be convenient. She shook the rain from her feathers and continued exactly where she had left off. She had learned by then that the goal was never to fly like a goose. The goal was simply to keep going as the bird she actually was. 6 weeks after she left the northern lake, nearly 3 times longer than it had taken the geese, the wren landed at the southern wetland, where the flock had already settled for winter. The eldest goose looked up, genuinely startled. "You made it," she said. "I didn't think you would." "You didn't think I would," the wren said, "because you were measuring my journey by your wings. I was never going to fly like you. I was only ever going to arrive like me." The goose had no answer for this. She had never once considered that there might be more than one way to complete the same migration. That winter, the wren told her story to the younger birds at the wetland, not as a tale of triumph over the geese, but as something simpler. She had not needed their wings, their altitude, or their speed. She had needed only the willingness to keep going as herself, for as long as it took. By the following spring, 3 other small birds, too small for the great migration by everyone's old assumptions, asked to follow her path north. She agreed, not because she had become strong like a goose, but because she had become certain of something the geese never needed to learn: that her own strength however different, was enough to lead with. The lesson the wetland carried forward that year was not that the smallest bird had somehow become the strongest. The lesson was this: true potential was never about matching someone else's wingspan. It was about discovering exactly how far your own wings, built precisely as they are, were always capable of carrying you.